Welcome to another fast and fun video. It's Rich here. In this week's video, I'm taking a look at running costs, specifically of my RS Megane 250. This car is high mileage for Megane RSs. It's got 136,000 miles on the clock. It's averaging about 12,000 miles a year. It's sort of 12 years old now. It's a 2010. For normal cars, that's probably what you'd expect of a daily. But I know in the Megane RS community, it would probably be perceived as on the higher mileage. I bought it nearly 2 years ago. I bought it with 111,000 miles on it. So I've put on 25,000 miles on it in just under 2 years. And it has been the go-to car, daily car, commuter. It's done track days. It's done absolutely everything. And I want to look back at the last 2 years. Everything is receipted. I'm going to tell you what it's cost me to run this high mileage Megane. Before I go into it in much more detail, a couple of things that's really important to remember, because some of these numbers are really high. I got this car stupidly cheap. It was probably half the price of the cheapest Megane RS out there at the given time. And that's because I bought it from a friend who's reminded me almost on a monthly basis how cheap I got the car. But there was a lot of things that needed to be done to the car, and that, as you'll find in the numbers that I'm going to come out with about running costs. So it was cheap, but there was a lot of work that was needed. Suspension, cam belt, servicing, tyres, etc. So there's a lot of cost in there to do with those bigger jobs. The other thing to remember is that there's a couple of things in there as well that's not necessarily about servicing and repair, but it's about making the car look tidier. The reconditioned alloys, they were the 19-inch sleeves, diamond cut alloys were in really bad condition. So we've got costs in there for refurb, and I wanted it as a track car as well. So there's costs in there associated with doing pads, discs, brakes, etc., brake fluid in there as well. So this is the whole up cost, but it does exclude insurance, because it's pointless me telling you what insurance is, because it's so much subjective to the individual. Road tax, again, it's immaterial because you can find out what road tax is. And fuel, again, it's been excluded. Just on fuel, as a daily, everyday driving, I'm getting low 30s, low 30 mpg, but yet on track, that can plummet to sort of 8 or 9 mpg. So, and the best I've ever seen is about 37, 38. So you've got a huge spread of MPG, but for run-of-the-mill daily driving, you should get low 30s. Right, let's go straight in and look at some of the numbers over the last 2 years, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's been done and how much this cheapest chips Megane has cost me. So let me start when I first bought the car in the early spring of 2021. I knew it needed a cam belt. There was some knocking on the suspension, and it needed a full service. So I took it up to RS4 Ashes, sort of in the West Midlands, and it was pretty eye-watering what I had done there. So first of all, the cam belt. With the cam belt, I had the dephaser, the cam belt, the water pump, and the auxiliary belt. And at the time, that was £612, which I thought was actually quite a reasonable price. There was a full service carried out, which was £199. I had the supply and fit of new genuine rear brake discs and pads at £430. So the Meganes, because the discs all come part of the rear hub assembly, rear discs are actually quite expensive. So £430. More on that later, because I'll show you how long those rear pads lasted on track. Not very long. Then I have the supply and fit new gearbox drive shaft seal, which was £129. Offside suspension drop link, £57. And supply and fit new suspension top mounts, £534. So the top mounts, obviously, the ones that actually bolt your front struts onto your chassis itself at £534. and then I did a door strap at £72 and a brake fluid change at £40. Shouldn't have done that because a month or two later I changed the brake fluid anyway. But so that came in at £2,074. So that was I think a little bit offset by the fact that I'd got the car so cheap, but that was say over a £2,000 bill on that. I then wanted to prepare the car for track work, so I went to Cam Racing online and I bought myself new front Brembo discs because the discs were worn, so I needed new front Brembo discs. I only went for plain discs because I've been told they're absolutely fine for track work. They were about £200 for the front pair, and I decided to fit PBS Pro Race front pads at about £170 at the time. So that was about £370. I also used some Castrol SRF brake fluid as well, which was about £55–60 for the brake fluid, all preparing the car for track. The fitting of that was all done by myself. In fact, I'll put a link up to a video about how to do that. And and it's a really straightforward activity for people to do. Shortly after, again, now in the early summer, I had a problem with the near side front wheel bearing. So that was replaced, and that came in at a total of £264 for labour, material and VAT. It then went through a MOT with no advisories, and that was £40. And then the tyres were on horrible tyres. I can't even make the make of them actually at the time. So I went with my trusted Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. Size-wise, 235, 35, 19s. I got them from Costco. So Costco's are wholesalers. They were doing an offer at the time. It was something like, if you buy 4, you get 25% off or something. So I ended up getting those for £495 fully fitted for all 4 tyres. So I had 4 PS4 S's fitted. And as you can see, the pound signs are accumulating fast. I then now we moved into early part of this year, so this is sort of 12 months into ownership, took it back for yet another service, and there was a spring had snapped as well, that got replaced, engine stabiliser mount got replaced, and the near side front lower suspension arm got replaced as well. That all came in at £695. So again, big costs there were not the service, but it was the lower suspension arm at £115, the engine stabiliser mount £55, the spring was £70, oil was £50. So £695 for the service and the suspension. I then took it back because there was still a knocking on the front, and I wanted to get the bushers on the front anti-roll bar replaced, but to do that you've got to drop the subframe, so that went in for that to be done. Plus we changed the other lower suspension arm as well, and that came in at £397, even though those anti-roll bushers were only £38. It's just there was a lot of labour in there for doing that. So that's it. So that's 2 services, cam belt, lots of stuff on the suspension, refurb of the wheels, which I didn't mention actually. So we had the refurb of the wheels we've done as well. They were, I think it was £70 a wheel, so that was £280 for the 4 wheels to be refurbed as well. So when you tot all that up, including the track stuff with the brakes and the wheels, it comes in at an eye-watering £4,597. So that's averaging, what, £2,200 a year on running this Megane. Now, that is a little bit false, because I don't think that's normal, and I don't think it's just for the age. I think it's where I bought it, and there was things that needed to be done to the car that's made some of those numbers slightly false. It's also obviously done track work. The rear pads had to be done as well. I'm not sure they're actually in there because I did them at a track day when the rear pad dropped out. So all in all, a bit of an eye-watering number. It will be due a service in the next, I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 miles before it's due back in. But after all that preventative maintenance, preparation for track work, the car has never let me down in 25,000 miles. The car still pulls, accelerates, corners brilliantly. And for me, high mileage, I don't worry about it. I know the cam belt's been done, back in for service. If you can do any work yourself, that's all good and well. And this is the running costs of my high mileage, used and abused Renault Megane RS250. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please thumbs up, subscribe down here somewhere. Stay tuned, another video next week. Thanks for watching.